Hey everyone, welcome back to the show where we talk with real pros in landscaping, tree service, and lawn care. The people out there building local businesses from the ground up without the shortcuts or the fluff. Whether you're trying to get more leads, hire a better crew, or finally just kind of step out of the day-to-day, depending on where you are. This show is about helping you grow a business that actually works and a life that works with it. That's really important. So today we're going to wrap up the final chapter in my co-host Anthony's story, how he went from overwhelmed and stuck in building a team and raising his prices and finally getting some breathing room. And so this episode here is about what happens after you get traction, some of the breaking points, the hard lessons, how he rebuilt a real business and not just the stressful job. So let's get into that. And without further ado, Anthony, hello.
Hello, Matt. Great to be on again.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. So, I think we kind of wrapped up the last time about different levels that you could be at, but let's talk about when growth, it just kind of starts to hurt. That you get the traction, but does it overwhelm? Are you stuck in this sort of high revenue, low margin loop? Let's get from where you kind of see success in the process and profit.
Yeah, there's certain areas where there's certain times where it pays to be the bottleneck.
Mm-hmm.
Bottlenecks aren't good. However, sometimes let's say you're really good at doing the estimates and it's hard for you to find someone else who can go out and do the estimates and book the same dollar amount of work as you and maintain really excellent relationships with your clients. But your business is doing $2 million a year in sales. This is one of the stages I was in. And I know we're going to go beyond, and talk about when you have more breathing room, but maybe at that stage, you're still making a really nice income by being the bottleneck. And maybe you do that for a couple years strategically. Mm-hmm. So even if there is some kind of problem going on or you're the bottleneck in your business, it could be a situation where you say, okay, well, I'm going to strategically do this for 2 more years because you have a predictable level of sales, a predictable level of profits and income. Because when you're the one doing the estimates, you really learn your numbers a lot of times the hard way. So once you start getting to 3 million, 4 million, and then the companies that are doing 10 million and 20 million we'll have on this show at some point too. But the theme is that there's obviously always problems, and it's the people that provide the most solutions are the ones who make the most. So I always think of it that way, even though it can still be frustrating, whatever bottleneck you're facing or whatever, wherever you're going to break out. Like right now, we're kind of going regional with the business, not mm-hmm. just local, but then breaking out and into okay, let's go nationwide, but strategically, let's pick out, 3 different states where we can go and start small.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I love about business is that you can always grow. You can always grow personally and as a business and with your team. And once you really start getting traction, one thing I wanted to mention was people taking advantage of you, because Matt, you and I had previously discussed, once people in your community maybe know that your business is doing really well, maybe employees try to take advantage more, maybe clients try to take advantage more. It's really important to have bulletproof contracts because clients will try to add all kinds of things to the work orders and they know they're not on the original work order and things like that. Like once you quote unquote make it, there's still other things to look out for. And the biggest thing is culture again. And I know we talk about culture a lot, but and it can come from within and it can come from the owner too.
Mm-hmm.
It's this certain complacency of, oh, it'll be fine. It's just a couple $1,000 repair, whatever. But that attitude starts to go everywhere. And then that's where businesses can really go way downhill. And we've experienced all of these things. We just catch things early. So
let me ask you.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but let me ask you. So when you get to that point, or you've gotten to that point where you're in a couple $1 million business, and you want to maintain that sort of maybe that family business atmosphere,
Yeah.
Yet it comes alongside with different faces, different contracts, does it feel, is there a way to maintain that personal touch with, but still have those contracts in place so can't get one over on you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that we've been doing is we don't just contact our clients when it's time to buy something from us, for example. So they hear from us every month. Like a lawn mowing client, we check in with them every single month.
Okay.
We don't just they pay their deposit for the season, or they sign up for the season and they pay their invoices or whatever, and then they don't hear from us for a year until it's time to renew their contract with us.
Got it.
We have, even though the contracts are still strict and everything else, something to answer the question here, something that we've done is maintain continuous communication with the clients, especially the maintenance clients, where we're, pulling their weeds, trimming their shrubs multiple times a year, checking in with them, even when they don't need anything. How have we been doing mowing your lawn? We're not asking them for anything. We're just asking them for feedback and keeping that communication line open. And that's something that's been really good. And then, having a couple designated people on the team that do a lot of the outreach and the client communication really goes a long way, because that's still kept that family atmosphere alive, where if I'm getting in touch with someone, or it's our office manager who's been with us for 5 years is getting in, oh, great to hear from you again, for the 5th year in a row, that goes a long way. And a lot of people are just quick to, let's just put AI on it. Let's just have AI do all the cold outreach or the customer communication, maintaining the communication. Well, that's not high touch. When you have someone that actually physically picks up the phone and calls or sends a text message, and it's not a copied and pasted text message. It's actually
Right.
a personal one of, hey, where you mentioned something about their property that only we would know about, or you met their dog or whatever it is. Like, they'll always ask us about our kids, and people ask me all the time how my sons are doing, and I ask them how their grandchildren or how their kids are doing. And it's more, once you make it more than just business, then it's, when you're talking about other things other than just business, hope you had a nice Father's Day, things like that, then it becomes, and I have this with vendors too, where maybe they're not making the sale or giving me a good pitch, but I really like them, and we're friends. So it's like, no, here's what you should have told me to get me to buy that new saw. Like, if I go to Richard's Small Engine, which is a place we go here, a lot of the guys there we've known for years, we're still going to buy the saw, whether they, even if they said something wrong or whatever it might be, because we've known them for a decade now.
Right.
So
yeah. What I'm hearing is, at this stage, it's imperative to tighten things up, fill all the holes so that you can't really get sunk necessarily, but to maintain that family atmosphere or that personal relationship, have good conversations, get to know people, and you can't duct tape it with AI automated systems. Like, that's a framework, but you need to put people in the mix of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, if you put ManyChat on your Facebook, that's great, because people kind of expect a chatbot in Messenger on Facebook, but then when they actually call and it's a staff member that they've spoken with before.
Right.
And this is all in art too, because it's blending, being formal and informal at the same time. And we've went way too far on the end of being informal and unprofessional. And it's worked for us, and that's fine, but it's not, I don't think it's like a business strategy that can be replicated all the time, of like being too informal. I wouldn't do that in any market we went into. But as a result of being more informal with staff members, clients, the whole thing, we've developed a really authentic relationship with everyone around us.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to cuss like a sailor way more than I do now. And I would do that around older clients, and they thought it was so funny. But I always thought, why would someone sign up with me after being like that? And it was, well, at least they knew I was just being 100% myself, and they appreciated that. So that's why I say too informal. But that's where we've gotten, so that's where our employees have come together and worked together as a team, because, we really get to know each other on a deeper level where we have each other's backs. It's not
Right.
just, if it was 100% formal and we didn't know anything about each other or about each other's kids or families or anything like that, we would just be drones, and there wouldn't be as much meaning there. Like, one of the things that started motivating me to keep growing the company, because I talked about how you have to deal with complacency once you start hitting certain sales targets and income targets, was other people's families. So, knowing that other people's families are depending on the business, I'm going to get up early in the morning, get ready, look my best, do my best with every client I meet with when it comes to estimates, because it's not just for yourself anymore. When it's really
Right.
affecting, 40 other people and all their families associated with it. You know, there's a lot and that's where that helps us increase when we're being formal. That helps us write the right contracts. It helps us behave appropriately with clients, and have a high level of customer service, and being polite, even if they're not being polite to us. It's like, we know that we need to do those things for the greater good of everyone that's working at the company.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a selfless. Once it becomes a selfless thing, then
It's a standardization, but it's not necessarily a cold standardization. It's with intentionality and with warmth.
yeah, absolutely. Yep, and then
Got
that's
it.
what keeps companies growing from there, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of growth, I think one of the things I think is always a concern, even in our in marketing and as an agency, is just just trying to grow, become popular, have more visibility, but not necessarily prioritizing profit. So it means you're underbidding things, you're maybe overworking, you're losing money on some of your jobs. You're when does that change from, okay, I've arrived, I'm far enough along that I don't need to try and win every job, I just need to win the right jobs? When does that come in for you?
That is an awesome question. I love that, because I remember being stuck in this. It was 2 years of underbidding, and you just get fed up with it after a while. A lot of it was limited thinking for me, where at the time, if I had only ever had a few $100 to my name, it was hard for me to fathom that anyone could come up with the $7,000 I know that this job requires to do it how they want it. So, but what I realized was, at least in our area, people really want high quality, and in order to give them high quality, we have to hire and retain the best guys. And in order to hire and retain the best guys, we have to pay them more than all of the other landscape companies. And so this is probably my favorite thing, at least financially, when it comes to building a business, is creating what's called a virtuous cycle. They call it that in economics, and I just adopted it for this, or a positive feedback loop, where, okay, now you have the really talented employees and you can charge more, but then you deliver a level of quality that customers are thrilled about, and then they refer more people, and then you have the virtuous cycle. And I experienced that. I had a couple of good hires, and it was just one or two. I think it was just two good hires, and they would do everything efficiently, and they did everything with high quality at the same time. And this was probably after hiring, let's see here. This was probably as I was on employee number 7 or 8. I had actually made a vow to never hire anyone again. I don't know if you and I had talked about this.
No, but it sounds like something you would say because of the struggles you said where you'd hit these moments.
Yeah.
Just too challenging,
Yeah,
over the top.
this is when I'm offering everything. Like, I'm doing lawn mowing, landscaping, and tree service at this point. And I had two high school kids, and it's normal for high school kids to not work hard. But when I was in high school, like me and my friends worked really hard at jobs when we got them. And that's not what happened. And I thought, you know what? I'm never hiring anyone ever again. And I didn't for 6 months. And then the first person I hired after that, in 6 months, the next two, yeah, the two people I hired after that really worked out extremely well. And then I hired another two. Those two didn't really work out as much, but then hired another two. And then once we had four people who would actually do what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it, and work hard all day. One of them was a referral from the church I go to. And then he started referring his friends. And then what happened was, just one or two really good people refer other people. You have a positive feedback loop. And that's when our pricing started to change, is once I knew we had a team in place that could do a good job. And then other clients saw that. But it was a 2-year ordeal. It wasn't just overnight. It was probably a year and a half. But at that point, what we started to do, because we wanted to be conservative, instead of asking for higher rates just across the board, because we were concerned of, okay, well, what if we raise our rates across the board and then we have like a really bad response rate? So we said, okay, 20% of the time, we're going to ask what we really know we should ask and see what happens. And people started going with it. We said, okay, let's try it 40% of the time. And then it got to a point where, because the question is like, at what point did that start changing? Once we got to a point where, and I remember because I used to tell our employees at the time, which a lot of them are still with us, I said, it feels like managing a pizza place, a pizza restaurant, because you make all the pizzas but you don't know if you're going to sell them all. Like
Right.
A lot of these places, they'll make the pizzas kind of in advance, not all of them, but at least a certain number. And they anticipate that the phone will ring or orders will be placed. And at that particular time, we started to know we didn't have any estimates pre-scheduled yet. Like right now, we have estimates pre-scheduled for a week or two in advance. So we're extremely comfortable right now compared to how we used to be. But back in those days, we didn't have any estimates scheduled for the day, and I'm the estimator. So I would go in the morning and show all of our three of our crews which job sites we're working on. So I would do like the quality control check before and after every job because I had the time to do that. But around 10 a.m., 10 a.m., people would start calling. And we noticed it would happen every day. So, and I would do same day estimates. I'd answer the phone. I'd go do the estimate. And it was one of my favorite points in business at that point because I loved being able to give same day estimates because everyone would be floored. But we weren't the most popular landscape business in town at that point. So the level of leads that we did get, we could just wow every client because we could do their estimate same day and we could usually do their job within a week or two. And we weren't, but at the same time, if we were still operating in that way, that's not a way you can have 40 employees counting on the business.
Right.
Like, when you have a 40-person operation, we want 3 months. We want to be booked 3 months in advance with a big pipeline. But we have to get permission from those clients still. Because if we just have a 3-month pipeline and we don't have permission from half of them, that's bad too because they want their job done. So we do something called a flexible scheduling discount where they can check a box and say, hey, we're okay waiting 2-3 months if that means that we can get this special discount.
Got it. Good idea.
Yeah. So, but
And
it
you
started
probably
happening once it was predictable. Once things became predictable, then we got more comfortable asking more for the jobs and
you kind of self-select at that point too. You weed out people who are maybe going to be a little more challenging because they're the low price sensitive clients, which are always more demanding. And then the saying no to bad fit clients, were you able to do that more? Just say, okay, this isn't a good, or would you overbid? How would you deal with those clients now that you had enough of a pipeline or enough? How would you say no?
Another excellent question, because I always disagreed with the approach of just overbidding. I just thought that was, I always thought that can lead to a bad reputation.
Right.
Like if I really don't like someone and I don't want to work with them, so then I triple the price and then they tell all their friends how we're triple everyone else's price, that also makes us look bad.
Right.
In a certain way. In a certain way, you can be the high-end provider of your service. I get it.
Right.
So it's not all the way bad, but it's just, in my mind, I don't think it's great marketing when you really look at it from a bird's eye view. So what I would just say is we're not the best fit for this and just wouldn't give a bid. Like I would just say, hey, this isn't something that we're comfortable doing and we're not the correct fit for this job. Really sorry about that. Because if we know that we don't get along with a certain person and we know they're not going to get along with us either, that we don't have a match, because sometimes you can just tell, we just say we're not a fit for this. And usually they would know that and say, yeah, that's fine. Like 99% of the time people would say, yeah. But if they didn't and they're like, no, I need a bid no matter what, then we might give a higher bid or something. But just giving anyone that we don't like gel with a high bid didn't sit well with us. So we would just say it's not a fit for us, or, something along those lines.
That leads me to a different question. So at this point, maybe you're doing somewhere between you're doing all the estimates or you're handing them off. Do you get to the point where you say, all right, I'm going to trust my people to say this isn't a good fit? Are you out of that decision at this point? And what's the number? Is it the dollar amount or is it the number of employees where you say, I can't be involved in every decision. I just can't do it anymore. What stage was that for you?
Again, anytime we do any of these things, we experiment with a certain percentage.
Okay.
So, or a certain amount of time, which is also a certain percentage. So when we first started having other estimators do the estimates, we would just say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, send everything. Then after that, anything that's over $6,000, I'll double check it with you just to make sure. Or, there's all kinds of things you have to be careful of with estimators, because what happens when you have an estimator who's giving really low rates to other people because their family or friends, or they feel bad for, maybe they feel bad for an older couple that have recently had some troubles and they're really nice people, and then they're giving the company money away even though it's not theirs to give away.
Right.
And sometimes we strategically still do go lower to have a certain pipeline to keep everyone busy. There are times when we strategically give really good discounts for certain jobs that are kind of busy work for the entire company, just something to do. Maybe it's a really big job that we know maybe we'll break even on it and get through the winter. But when it comes to completely handing over the decision making, I would just say try it a certain percentage of the time, and if it's going well, kind of increase that percentage and still keep an eye on it. But when I started to do that is when we could afford to risk a certain amount of money. And I would do that. I would do the same thing where I would exit the business for 2 weeks and see how it does without me. And if I see the numbers tanking, it's not time for me to just be totally out of it yet.
Right.
So I would do tests instead of just making a unilateral decision and sticking with it forever and being stubborn. I would say, okay, I'm going to have every team member just make the decisions across the board for the next month or for the next 3 weeks or whatever it might be, and then see how it goes.
Okay.
With periodic check-ins.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. I like the experimenting with that.
Yeah.
If you've got enough to play with, you can do that experimentation.
Right. As long as you have enough money to lose, and you have to know at what point, okay, if our cash on hand goes to this number, okay, that's when the experiment's over. If you start noticing that you're going up, and for cash on hand, I know, maybe you're strategically investing in equipment and things like that. So that's not always the indicator. That's just what I do. I'll make sure that I don't have any major investments or expenses coming up. Or I just won't count those as part of the equation when I'm looking at the financials. But But you can see a big difference where, like, if you're the owner doing all the estimates and you have someone else, you train someone else and have them do the estimates, you can measure that.
Mm-hmm.
You can measure what's the close rate, what's the average dollar amount per job, what's the customer satisfaction,
Right.
all that.
Well, that's good. Having all those indicators seems like a wise idea to have that. And also, I would imagine you're willing to take a little bit of a loss in some ways just to get yourself out of that position, even though you like the job. But all right, it's going to cost me 5 or 10% to be out of the position or out of the bottleneck position, but it runs more smoothly. I have more opportunity to kind of pull some levers.
Yeah.
It seems like it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You nailed it on that. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. Yeah, sometimes you'll say, man, I don't want to be stuck doing estimates my whole life. If that means the company makes a little less, but I don't have to do every single estimate, and I can maybe go visit with crews or go visit with clients that have, jobs in progress with us. And I just want to go visit with, maybe you want to do more of a customer service role for a little bit, or even just step away entirely and take a vacation or whatever it might be.
Right.
Then it can be it could actually be worth it to have less in sales as long as you still have that manageable profit and it's predictable, as long as it's not just tanking, obviously. But yeah,
Sure.
yeah, it can
Sure.
be worth it to take a loss.
Be great to have the opportunity for your crew to be like, yeah, oh, he's coming around again. It gets worse when he's around versus when
Yeah,
like he's causing problems over here. We're more efficient when he's not around. So that's the problem you want to have, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So we got about 10 minutes left here. Where are you today, if you don't mind sharing? And what does growth look like now?
There are still always temptations as the owner. There's a few. There's the temptation to just stay where you are or kind of in a similar and just coast, which it doesn't end up going that way. It ends up just going down anyway, I think. So there's that. Or there's the temptation to want to downsize a bit to something a little bit more simple, like we're just kind of talking about, where, make up a little bit less, but your quality of life goes up. So there's that. But then at the same time, what I have going on is I have some really good business partners, and they have locations in 22 different states in 38 cities. And I've talked with you about these business partners, and we can actually tie into their network with Anthony's Lawn Care and Landscaping, and we also have Anthony's Junk Hauling. And actually, Anthony's Junk Hauling really works well for this business model, but we have the ability to team up with them and all of their operators, and then all of a sudden, for a very low amount of investment, all of a sudden be in 22 different states. I wouldn't say we would be in 22 different states because I don't think every operator will do it, but we can have kind of basic landscape services like pulling weeds, maybe laying some mulch and some junk hauling. We could realistically team up with our business partners, because I have partners that own 12% of Anthony's Lawn Care. And we could realistically get into 10 different states with them and kind of take a quantum leap, which we're really blessed to have that opportunity. I still get just as much excitement out of the prospect of, I've always looked at business as a puzzle, and you get the right pieces in the right place and then it works. So I love playing the game of finding the right pieces, which are people, and getting the right people in the right places. Like, there's certain people who have certain beliefs and values that are perfect for the mission that we have. And maybe they don't want to own a business at all, but they're the perfect partner for what we're doing. And maybe they want a side income, or maybe they don't even want a side income. Maybe they just want a semi-passive income because their husband or wife works or whatever it might be, and they just want something to kind of do. But and they're fine with having a little Anthony's Lawn Care location or a Anthony's Junk Hauling location. It doesn't consume their time, but they're able to build it up to maybe 5-10 employees and manage it just fine. And it's a certain person, it's the right people, right place, right time. And I still get a lot of enjoyment from creating, like figuring out what market should we go into, where is their demand, and all of that. So that's where I am now, and that's where I want to continue to
Yeah.
go, is just grow in that way, is find the right partners and grow into other cities and states.
All right. So some growth in other cities. You've got a brand that you've built. You've got an opportunity to be in a few more places, and that keeps you in the business, but not in the business right necessarily locally at the level. So you've gotten the point where it sounds like you can step out,
Yep.
and you can still keep an eyeball on it, but if should it change, you can always put your focus back in there. But so that's a great place to be. So you are really truly working on the business now versus, or at least maybe 80-90% versus before, where you had a lawnmower in your minivan.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really it's the joy of creation, as Rob Dyrdek puts it.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
the guy's worth $300 million, and he keeps building businesses anyway. And he says it's the joy of creation when you create a business or you grow a business. Because even when you're growing it, you're still creating something. You're going into a new market. You're hiring
Right.
new people. You're creating something. So I think there's a lot of joy in that creation, regardless of how much money you have.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think that's kind of what it would be a great segue into what we want to do with the rest of these podcasts, is to help people create, help people see ways that they can move through the business from whatever stage they're in, just getting started, they're a few years in, or they're with the minivan and the mower, or they're getting up to the spot where they're starting to step out of the business a little bit, in ways that we can do it. So I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. And then thank you for sharing your story from sort of beginning to end in these last
Yeah.
4 episodes. And then I think moving forward, we can really start to really talk with a bunch of people who would value your opinion, and hopefully some of mine too, for marketing purposes and ways that they can scale. And so, yeah, I think that's really good.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
All right. Well, perfect. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to the next one.
All right. Take care.